welcome to our first Chitchat Superstar Talk. We have Raoul, your brand manager, Adam Lewis, Wave Team and R&D, Marc Perret, hopefully upcoming world champion and biggest wave talent, myself, R&D, chief tester, and not to forget true legend, Nick Baker from the UK.
Oh, that's my title now, is it? Cool.
Yeah, we're gonna launch tomorrow. We're gonna launch a new product. Maybe Raoul, you want to tell us something? Why Duerton is actually bringing back the old superstar?
Because basically we ran out of ideas. So that's always what brands are doing if they don't have any new ideas. No, just joking. Sorry. The thing is that we realized also already with the super session and obviously in testing nearly every other sale on the market that there are some radical differences in feeling depending on where your draft is located in the sale. And with the super session, we already started that with the draft being pretty forward and pretty high compared to the superhero where we have a low and center draft position. And we wanted to generate a more modern, call it a more radical version, being also capable of suiting the team for PWA wave sailing, but still being the same capability even for bump and jump conditions. And this is how it all started basically 2.5 years ago.
Okay. Hey, Marc, are you old enough to remember the old superstar actually?
Yeah, remember like some people at my sailing club when I was younger, like maybe 8 years old or something like that. Like they had superstars.
And did you sail it as well? The old one?
I actually sailed it. No, never. Not the old one. I mean, the new one, of course. Not the old one.
I think it was one of your first sails ever, huh? Wasn't it, huh, Marco?
Yeah, for me, it was actually the first new sail which I got from my parents, brand new. It was the blue superstar from, I think it was 19...
No, it was already after millennium.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly when it was 2003.
Oh,
Right, 2003 was the original one.
Yeah.
And what about you, Adam?
My friends had one. The one that had the proper triangle. I vividly remember red with the little triangle coming out the back of the leech. And I remember being so jealous that he had that the triangle out the back. It was such a cool feature. I was like, damn, how's he got that?
I thought actually looking at your videos and photos from Hookkeeper, I thought that I think that the best combination is the little triangle, which by the way we leave out for production, but we come to that later. And Marc Perret sailing the Bolero.
Yeah,
That is really classical. I have to admit, Marc, you really made my day. So you're a very, very good successor, I would say, of Nick's fur coat.
He's got a more furry
So I would say we're gonna go now a little bit more back in the days. I'm gonna share now my screen. You guys can see it.
Oh God, there we go.
That is not back in the days, that's today.
I know, I tell you.
That is back in the days.
I'll tell you what.
That's back in the days. But actually, I cannot see any difference.
Not much. I mean, even the coat looks virtually the same, huh?
It's the same.
No, actually, guys, Marco called me yesterday and said, "Hey, when you received the footage, he was really jealous because his girlfriend was starting to get super nervous seeing me.
Well, I was lucky, to be honest with you. If you'd asked me to do this in about March before lockdown, I was 10 kilos heavier. Literally. In lockdown, man, I've been out on my bike. I've been on the water since we've got back, opened up again. I've been out windsurfing and foil winging and all this stuff non-stop in the evenings and things, and riding my cycle bikes. I've literally lost 10 kilos. So the fact you guys asked me to do this a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, thank God. You would have spent a lot of time photoshopping otherwise.
So there is an advantage not visiting dealers and drinking and eating with them all the time.
Yeah, sitting in that car, driving around demos, lastminute.com burgers and all the food.
Mm-hmm. The healthy food.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what kind of memories you had when you heard like the superstar will be back?
Well, we spoke about it at one of our dealer meetings or kickoff meetings, I think in November. A year ago was it? I think, yeah, a while ago. So, and yeah, I was obviously pretty excited about it, being obviously a part of the whole original Superstar, with all the development that we did with Kai Hoff, and it was my first, the first decade that I was with Baltimore. 4 years into it, and there's an actual story about the photo shoot from the first brochure, which I'm actually holding here, which I had to put next to me when I was doing the pictures for it yesterday. And this shot is, has a.
That was in Australia, wasn't it?
That's what I'm saying. That's the story. That's both of me in that shot. They've obviously superimposed one. Couldn't do it that twice. But we had a story with Kai, and you know what Kai's like. So Adam, you boys know Kai, and he's a special character. He's obviously incredibly talented at what he does. And we were down in sort of South Australia in Esperance, and we went for this drive in four-wheel drives for 45 minutes, like 50 minutes off-road to get to this so-called beach that I'd never heard of. No one seemed to have heard of it except to him and a friend of his that lived down there. So we got our stuff loaded up, and we were getting lost, and we were getting stuck, and then we get to the top edge of this cliff, and we literally look down at, I don't know, it's 400 or 500 yards, quite a steep drop. I'm thinking, we're not driving down there, no chance. And the bit crappy conditions, and sure enough, off we go down this thing, bumping around, and we got down onto the beach, and we hit a point where the waves were coming up to the cliff. We had to wait for the water to go back so we could drive around this sort of point of this cliff to get to this sort of secluded beach. And we parked up, and Eric Trosheider was there with us as well, and obviously a few other people and photographers and that. And we're sort of getting rigged up. It's 5-3 weather, not very good, waist high, shoulder high, mushy waves. It could have been in England, but obviously a lot sunnier. And the boys, the guy who was there with us, Kai's mate, he's like, give it an hour or two, the tide will turn, it will be firing later. And we were looking at each other going, this guy's mad. I kid you not. We went out, 5-3, average conditions. It started turning, wind picked up. We came in, we were on 4.7s. 2 hours later, it was logo to mast high, left hand, reeling as fast as you could go. We were on the water till dark nearly, until we had to leave, obviously, to get out of there. And it was one of the best days sailing we had, around those times. Absolutely incredible. So and it was all secret because we couldn't show anybody the sail. So it was just, ultimately we could have all died there and no one would have known, to be honest with you. It was that far remote, but it has quite special memories for me, I would say.
Raoul, you're still your team. I call it now your team riders, which were using the Superstar.
If I remember those still or what?
Yeah, which team riders?
Up in front, the most important was Matze Sommer, my best buddy. Nick knows him still. It was from the international team. It was Nick, obviously, and who else was there? From the Wave guys, Jesus Christ! I think Nick was clearly our number one, and
the twins were the twins on it too, I think.
The twins, yeah, of course, yeah. The Merinos were on the sail. Who else was maybe another funny story was how I came up with the name, because the idea for the name was my idea. At that time, the magazines had a super strong impact on your sales. You know, Nick, or you remember Nick, when you had a test winner, it was shitty because you were sold out in a minute and you couldn't get enough to fulfill the demand. But even worse was if you were losing the test, you could literally burn your warehouse. And at the time when we got a bad test, I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, the next sale we're gonna bring out, we name it test winner, because then it's all clear about what it is. And obviously that was not possible. But that is when I started to come up with these, some call it arrogant or superhuman beings or superstar names or whatsoever. Now we call them the Avengers. And the first one was the superstar. It was like, yeah, let's give it a name, superstar. Why not? And that was also my motivation by bringing it back, because at the moment we have the idol, we have the superhero, and so the super session was not 100% fitting in that. And I was like, yeah, let's bring it back, because then we finally have it all together. Idol, superhero, superstar. Yeah, the Dudes and Avengers. Here we are. That was the whole idea, or the whole concept behind the name.
Well, it was all single fins in those days, so it was more forwards.
Yeah.
You know, it came from the Dr. X, then to the sort of superstar, and it was all forwards and high, because you needed to hold that rail more into the water.
Yeah.
The boards were narrower, longer, quite different to today.
So actually, and this is why Kai was on the forefront when it turned towards multi-fin and then sails following it, going more into centered and lower draft. Kai had a super easy time because he was personally, and he's an unbelievable Hookkeeper legend sailor. It's incredible if you see him in Hookkeeper. You guys know better than me. And he was always on multi-fins. He basically left out the single fin decade. And he was always forward sails. I don't like them. And he was super fast when the trend came with Cowley towards multi-fins, that he said, now finally you got to love my sails, which I made personally for myself all the time.
We made the ego.
Good afternoon. I have the pleasure to introduce you Northsail's brand new concept wave sail called the Ego. This is the most futuristic wave sail you've ever seen on the market. And when I finished with you, you will agree with me. We're going to start with one of the most important features on this sail, which we call the cutaway clue. The cutaway clue virtually reduces the boom length, greatly, obviously, improving the performance. What we've also done...
Didn't we, because you couldn't make a sail that worked really well in onshore, or really well for a heavy guy, or really well down the line. You only want 5 battens, 4 battens, 2.5 battens, all those different things. They just have a whole new line of sails.
Yeah, but fortunately, these days are over now.
Oh yeah, well, since you guys, or since Raoul and Kai came up with this sort of more shrunk down range and made the products fit more conditions and more people. And it's better for the end consumers, it's better for the dealers, it's better for us. We used to take a down the line set of sails for one place and an onshore set of sails for another place. I mean, what a nightmare. Yeah.
So it looks like, or it sounds like, the image of the superstar is here and the superhero is here.
It's just a legendary name coming back, but this doesn't mean that our superhero is second class. It really depends on the conditions, and I cannot emphasize enough that you really, as an end consumer, especially on wave sails, on freeride sails, they are all pretty similar in the draft position among the brands. But on wave sails, at least the good wave sails work in all kind of conditions nowadays, but they have drastically different feelings depending if it's higher draft or lower draft, or more forward or more centered. And I could only urge any customer to stay within compatible sails. So either go for center draft position on all your sizes, or go for forwards and higher draft position on all your sizes, because if you mix them up, you're going to be unhappy. That's for sure. And it counts for me. It counts, I think, for every one of us. You have to get used to it. And even we have to get used to it for a day. And regular people sailing whatever 20 times a year, they will have a hard time if they mix up different draft sails in their quiver.
Yeah.
I've had out my 4-5 and the superheroes and things outside here where I live, and no one's really around. So I've had a few team riders and a few people that have looked at, you know, a kit for this coming season and wanted to try them, obviously, because they've heard a little bit about things. So I've had a few people try them, just to, one, while I was sailing them, but also to get their feedback and for them to see what they want. And the guys that have been on our stuff for a while, basically superheroes, have all jumped on it for 10 minutes and come back and go, oh, yeah, it does this, it does that, but I think I'm going to order superheroes. Guys that have come from other sail brands, I'm not a Nilpug guy, but a guy and a Severn guy, who's come and jumped on it and gone, oh, God, that feels much more natural to me. You know, that little crispier feeling, little draft forwards and up a little bit, type and leach a little bit, which feels quite different from the superhero. So for us, I think your superhero customers that have been for a good few years now, and if they've really grown and grown and grown as the sail range has got even better each year, I think most of those guys will stay on the superhero.
They should stay on the superhero, I would even say.
Yeah, and then the other guys from other brands will come across and not be such a jump, you know. And obviously, different people want a different feel as well. Of course, not everybody wants that superhero feel. I mean, it seems to suit a huge amount of people, but there is a lot of people that want something that feels different, you know. So I think that's the beauty of it. I don't know if there are any other sail brands that have such a different feel between their wave sails. I don't. Maybe there is, but I don't hear of it. So I'm.
But Nick, maybe it's now really good occasion to let Adam and Mark, who were really the major guys in the development, describe the real differences in wave sailing.
Yeah, and the different conditions. Be great to hear that. Yeah.
So I mean, we started. Well, when did we start the Superstar development? I think was
2.5 years, 3 years.
Yeah, definitely 2 years ago. I remember we got our first prototypes 2 years ago. Like, yeah, would have been this time 2 years ago.
Maybe we should even go one step back. When we had this one session, I remember you were there. Marco was there. Me was there. In I think it was Kanaha. Eh?
No, it was on the Needle Beach.
Huh?
It was Blue Beach.
The Needle Beach.
Right. And there we tested all kind of sails, and also the 2018 Combat.
Yeah. We had a bunch of different construction prototypes as well, right? With some membranes and some different constructions. Yeah. So that was the start. That was the start, and that was 2.5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I think it started with that, and I mean, I think we all jumped on a bunch of different sails. We tried that Combat. Did we try some Severns as well that year?
Yeah, we had a Severn. We had some Goya. And Pride obviously. And not only the Combat, we had the Atlas as well, and I don't remember. Yeah.
I mean,
and ours.
We can obviously say we try a bunch of different stuff. And I think there was when we tried that Combat, there was a few things that it was really nice, that it felt this really like kind of, I think Nick said, like more crispy but kind of a live reactive feel. Perhaps like in our superhero, that's maybe not the
cut off.
Mark, you want to continue?
Yeah, right. Your chance just to cut them all, and then Mark is the last one.
Mark pressed the button. I saw him.
Out.
Sneakily. Okay.
Yeah, Mark. So
Yeah.
No, maybe I continue because Adam was just saying from this first session, and Adam was actually super stoked about the combat. He was like, wow, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a nice sail. I was also stoked in bump and jump conditions because we didn't have proper waves at that time or at that day. And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's really exciting. It feels like a free ride sail for waves. And we also had the super session at that time, and the super session felt similar in a similar direction. And then we realized that due to the fact that they are so different, we need to have something like that, and especially for customers, so that they can choose if they have combats or Saverns. I would definitely reckon to go for a super session or a superstar, or if they come from Goya or Gastra or GA, sorry, I would reckon to go for a superhero then. And this is how the whole development started then, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we tried the first time in Garda, and we were all like fully stoked about the combat, because especially for me as more heavy guy, it was much easier for me to keep going, to start blaming, and it was really alive, as Adam said already before.
In Garda, it was ridiculous. Everyone from us speaking about the 2018, that is really important combat. That was a legendary sail. Everyone came back and said, what the fuck, that is really an unbelievable sail. Everyone had to admit, in Garda conditions, in flat water bump and jump conditions. On the other hand, in Mauritius, when we had the luck to still be traveling to Mauritius at our dealer meetings, in high waves, I mean in proper waves, I think I had the best sailing of my life ever with the superhero, and I wouldn't swap with the superstar in this kind of conditions. And I think Nick and Mark, you guys will confirm.
Yeah.
For really, I mean, really down the line conditions where you want to push down the rail into the water, there is nothing better than the superhero.
Yeah,
or Mark.
It's so forgiving for me, but yeah, but Mark's obviously used it in much more variety conditions. That's for sure these days.
All right.
Oh, there you are.
That's it. Yeah.
He went off to have a cup of tea, didn't he?
Your picture was frozen like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know where I cut out. I was off on one, and then
Sorry, now it's Mark's turn.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Mark was going to tell us how good they are in down the line conditions. Or
Right.
no, how different it is, sorry, that the superhero in down the line is obviously amazing and the superstar is more real world in a way. My sort of wording is a little bit more real world conditions for other sailors that don't sail superheroes.
Yeah, I think the superstar, it generates a lot of lift. So in terms of how the sail, it pulls the board almost out of the water. So for air, like if you're sailing somewhere that has a lot of current or something like that, it's gonna to get planing and to get out, it kind of pulls the board a little bit more out of the water and really gets it going earlier, just because of where the draft is and how we've sort of adjusted the volume in the sail to create a lot more lift. And I think that's probably the biggest difference is the lift it creates. Obviously that draft being further forward, the sail itself has a little bit more skin tension, so it feels a little bit more exciting. It's more lively and reactive, perhaps. That's
of course, you're a bit biased because you will be sailing the superstar only. But let's give Mark, because he will be, from what I know, switching depending on the conditions which sail to take.
He will go on the E-base. He will take the E-base, what I heard.
Those are better doubles. No, but basically, after trying the sails, like that, we came here testing in February with Adam and Victor, and it was good to have a feel in one of the spots where we are going to compete in. So basically, the main difference I felt, as we were talking about before, Like with the Superstar, it was like more alive, like a bit faster, like more direct, and like in the wave, it felt like a bit like more easier to move, like in the sense that you could go like vertical, and then for the moves, it was easier to find that neutral point. And like then the Superhero, then it just gives a bit more drive, wants to drive the board down a bit more, gives the board a bit more control. And yeah, like when you put it on rail, it basically just helps the rail come into the water a bit better than the Superstar does. And I think, as Adam said already, like it's better like for those kind of snappy turns, like thruster turns and stuff. So
would you guys say, because this is what I also heard sometimes from some of you, that it's also depending on the fin setup you're using, thruster versus quad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say the fins. I mean, both sails I think work well on all different types of fin setups. Firstly, but I would say the Superstar probably lends itself slightly more to a thruster turn, that you're coming down and going straight back up at the wave a little bit more, and the Superhero suits itself a little bit more to a quad, that you're doing a sort of like a more drawn out, carvier turn, let's say. That the Superheroes kind of, especially coming off the top, that downforce that you get a little bit out of that sail helps keep the rail in the way as you're carving around, and that suits also a quad. Where the thruster, you're coming a little bit more vertical and you're kind of snapping off the top, like Nick said, and the Superstar really suits that kind of thing.
Mark, are you sailing thruster or a quad?
I'm actually sailing a bit of both, depending on the conditions and what kind of rocker I have on my boards. Like for example, I have like a flatter rocker on one of the prototypes with a bit more kick, and that one I prefer it as a thruster. And then I have one like with a bit more overall rocker, and that one I prefer it as a quad. That really depends on the kind of board.
And you can confirm what Adam just said.
Yeah, like that definitely. Like I would say the Superstar, it's like better for like those snappy turns, and like the Superhero, it's better as a quad. Just because it holds more the rail, like in the water, and like when you want to do like those carvings that, for example, Victor is famous like doing, like then, yeah. I think the Superhero.
But if you have somebody who is maybe doing like a little bit everything, like me, freestyle, bump and jump, going into the wave, which sail you would recommend somebody?
I would say the Superstar. I think it's just a bit more of like a more versatile sail than, like, to put it in a word. So yeah, like it's a board that it just, as you guys explained before, it's like more lift. The sail is more lifty, so it's gonna be a bit more easier to get planing. And
I also think it depends a bit on where you live and how your level of sailing is, because this sounds then very fast like, the Superhero only for hardcore, down the line, mega wave sailing. Which, if you're having a pretty good sailing level, I would agree to that. Because in flat water, I personally think the Hero might be even feeling a bit boring due to the fact that
it sticks down the board.
Yeah, it drives down the board, and it's all in control, and the draft is always in within your hands. So there's nothing happening. With the draft more forward and lifting, you get this excitement. So for an advanced sailor, I would agree in flat water. But imagine a sailor who's not so advanced, or is living in super, super gusty and mega windy conditions. I think these guys will be super happy if they have a Superhero pushing down the board, getting more in control. As I said, for us, it might feel a bit boring in flat water with the Superhero, but I promise you, there are a lot of guys out there who are super, super happy sailing first time they're 3-7 or 4-2, that the sail is pushing down the board to stay in control.
I mean, it's relative, isn't it? Because in a way, the conditions that we're finding that superhero excels in are the conditions we're also looking for controlling.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, and the superstar lifts the front of the board up, which is something I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to get my board to feel light, loose and lively, so that I can, on these smaller mushy waves that we get around Europe, I can get that more vertical turn and snappier. I don't need to drive so much. I want it to be snappy. Hold the rail in as well, obviously, but the board sort of already does that. So yeah, for me, it's exactly what I found. Exactly out here where I live, onshore to side shore, it's allowed me to have that real snappy feel, which I've actually really enjoyed. And at the same time, going out on your jumping, it's given you on the small waves again that we have. It's given me, to carry my weight.
Yeah, more lift. But what you just said before, Adam, that or Nick, that for jumping gives you more lift. That's the one thing. But also, if you want to initiate a rotation forward or backward, this off-center draft position, that it's more forward, also helps you. It simply accelerates the rotation, I think. Landing is a different thing. I think landing, the hero is more.
That's always the hardest bit, though, isn't it? I can throw myself still into all sorts of stuff. It's the last.
But it might throw you into a double.
Yeah,
that you even don't want.
Yeah. I even did the other day. I was out. We were doing some pictures with the superstar, and I did some one-hand tabletops and some all sorts of different funny old-school jumps. I thought, well, I've got an old-school graphic. I might as well do some old-school jumps. I even did a forward loop. Yeah. Yeah. The closest I got to a double was 2 in about 20 minutes, one at a time. Yeah.
I brought a present, back in history. Nick will remember, maybe Marco. Huh?
Oh yes.
Do you remember
the mast foot protector?
Yeah, the mast protector. We did not do that on the new version because we're just too old for that now. When we used to be young and radical, we said, hey, let's go for a leopard skin protector. The technical problem with the fucking leopard skin was that it was smelling like shit. As soon as you were sailing in salt water, it wasn't, 100% dry. In your car, you were, do we have a cat in here? So there is a technical reason why we're not bringing that one back. I have another one. Surprise, surprise. Here you go. You can see that?
Yeah.
It's difficult with this background. Now you go. By the way, that's the shirt of my wife. And you know how it is with old couples. And some are putting on the nurse coat to get some sexual spice into the relation again. With my wife, it's super easy. I just, go for the superstar shirt. And then we're going to have an amazing night. This is how it works in our marriage.
Yeah.
I just took my coat off.
Don't do that to me. I might be jumping on you.
I get you all excited if I do that, don't I? Huh? I'm going to get it down the back of my coat because it's sweating. I'll put it on the back of my chair. Every now and again, I can just stroke it, like my cat. I've had to keep that for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, right. When we bring it back again.
Raoul, actually, in which year the superstar got replaced and by which sail?
Oh, Jesus Christ. The first year we came out with it was 2003. And I think we stopped it 4 or 5 years later. You remember, Nick?
Yeah,
something like that.
It wasn't. We didn't go that long, did it? I'm trying to think of all the colourways. I've got one. I've got a 4.2 of the second year in my lockup.
Right.
Yeah.
No, at that time we were like, let's go crazy, and every year something new. It all started with the Dr. X, the famous Dr. X. That was before most of you guys were born.
It was 99.
And then the superstar, and then we went for the Triple X. I think that was the same time.
Yeah, that was more of a sort of power wave style, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
and when I was getting a bit older and starting to watch porn on TV. This is how this name came.
Yeah, I think so. I think we were actually driving through Munich.
Yeah, right.
We drove past a certain establishment on the side of the road. Yeah, you know, and they were like, "Oh, that'd be a good name." Yeah. Double D or triple X or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. We both were in favor of double D, if I remember correctly.
We had some incredible names, though, didn't we? You know, over the time, the disco and all these different things, you know, and it seems like that period of time, everyone really got carried away with the colours and the graphics and the names and whatnot.
And honestly, among having a lot of fun, or part having a lot of fun, there was also a strategy behind it. Because with our former brand being so technical, because everyone was like, America's got technology, overkill. And we always had to fight against this, because it was always, hey, if you want to be a cool guy, you need to be on price. That was always the thing. It was killing me, or killing all of us. and if you want to have objectively the best products, technologically superior, you need to have a node at that time.
Yeah, and we were known for strength, but it all came with a bit of a tag of being a little bit heavier because it was stronger.
Right. Technology, quality.
There was no difference in weight, but then we had that image, so we had to get out of, try and remove ourselves from just that image. Keep the fact that we were still strong, like we have the 5-year warranty still to this day, I think the only one, but give each brand, each cell line, its own image. So it wasn't just a North or now a duotone, but it is a superstar or a superhero. And as you see from, over the years, how that has stuck. And I'm just thinking while you were talking there, the only other sour brand and name I would imagine that's stood the test of time or hasn't any sort of, and it would be the Combat. Right, though. Back to the earlier question, when you said when Raoul told us initially when we were in Munich looking at the new sour ranges, the possibilities for 21, and they brought out, obviously the superhero, this is a new, and then we got a new one for you, an old, superstar, and I was rubbing my hands together, actually with the French guys, because they loved it, they were rubbing their hands together, and then they brought the graphics out, and we were like, oh, okay, and then we went outside and looked at them, and this was the first one, Raoul, yeah, and we looked, the style looked really nice and all good, and it had some stars in the logo, and we were like, yes, it's nice, but we cannot bring out such a, for us, legendary sour line without the star. And I don't mean a bit of a star, it's got to be, and we all sort of chatted about it, that's why we go and do these meetings. The idea is we put everything on the table, and pretty much everyone said, it's got to be radical, it's got to be like it originally was, a real head turner, and make a real feature from it, as is. And obviously the next time we went, 3 months later, you guys had done the whole thing.
But you know what? You guys saved me. I was like, when you guys brought it up, I was like, because I was talking to Flo, our art director, for actually 3 months. I was telling him, hey, it has to have a star. I tell you, it has to have a star. And I mean, actually, it has to have the star. And he was like, no, it's not fitting in the range. I was like, okay, you try your best, and I tell you, you're going to get blown away when we present the sales. He's like, no, and the regular one is super nice. I think it's a super nice looking sale. And for everyone who's not completely, I want to show off, or I have the level of sailing, the regular one is fantastic. But then you guys fortunately said, yeah, we have to have at least one pro model or whatever edition with the star. And
it must have looked like you told us about this, huh?
Huh?
It must have looked like to Flo that you told us, and we knew nothing about it. I mean, to me, it is a bit like saying, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to bring back Baywatch with Pamela Anderson, but she's going to have no boobs.
Yeah.
What sense would that make? None at all. So,
with A cup, cup A.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Yeah, not because that is the legend. That's what it's all about. So Yeah, no, I think Flo and you guys obviously did an amazing
Or
job
David Hasselhoff without his speaking car.
without Adam's hairy chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Mark. I mean, mine's hairy too.
No.
I have to say that star one, when we unrolled it at the beach here for the shoot, it looks epic.
Yeah.
And like even there was like obviously you who keepers doing the photo shoot, so there's some people around, and like everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you brought it! That's the best sail I've seen in ages." They were like frothing.
Try and catch me on the 7th of September when I'm reborn at your local dealer.